This bug has been undocumented for almost 20 years and has probably impacted the majority of Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum playthroughs. It's a phenomenon that has been noticed by tons of players but chalked up to randomness. Maybe you noticed a honey tree taking longer than 6 hours to shake when you were a kid, or maybe your berry tree took longer than it did the day before to sprout. In this video, we'll explain how the bug works, confirm it through a set of experiments, and explain if it's possible to play around the bug. But first, let's give some context for why we figured this out. In January 2022, I attempted a rather unique speedrun of Pokemon Platinum. The objective of this speedrun was to beat the game as quickly as possible using a Munchlax. Now, those who completed their Pokedex in Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum probably just had chills go down their spine, realizing that the only way to get a Munchlax in Platinum without trading is with the honey trees. There's plenty of info on the internet about how it works, but the TLDR is that Munchlax is extremely rare, and honey trees take about 6 hours to spawn an encounter. As a result, the speedrun took me 11 hours and 53 minutes to complete. But something really weird happened in this run.
No, 42 was wrong. I actually slided at 39. Or maybe not. It's still not ready yet. Was it later? I guess it was later. I guess we have more time then. My Munchlax, nothing is spawning. Nothing has showed up.
Despite 2 months of research, testing, and programming to force the game to give me a Munchlax and other rare events, I did not get a Munchlax to appear after 6 hours. In fact, nothing spawned at all. During the run, I was completely baffled and heartbroken that all my effort had gone to waste 7 hours deep into a speedrun.
I don't know what to do. I actually don't know what to do. I don't know why it's not spawning. I cannot believe we made it through all that just for this to happen. This is insane. This makes no sense, dude. It's not even like a manip thing, it's just the game is not spawning after 6 hours like it's supposed to.
It took an extra hour until an encounter appeared, way past the advertised 6 hours that it should take for something to spawn.
Oh! We're good, dude! We're good! Let's go!
Since it did eventually spawn, I was able to finish the run, but the question still remained. Why did it take way longer to appear in this run when it took 6 hours in my practice runs? I looked up as much information as I could on the internet, and there was no real info that could explain what happened. Mostly people on old forums saying that it sometimes takes longer than 6 hours, but no explanation for why. I asked Glitch Hunter Retire about it later in the year, and he said that another Glitch Hunter had looked into it briefly before, but couldn't find any reason for it to take longer than 6 hours. In general, the way that these games track time for these types of events, that would be honey tree, berries, etc., was very undocumented and misunderstood, with lots of misinformation online. At this point, I was convinced it was just a problem with my cartridge. I asked multiple friends to also test if it took them 6 hours to get a honey tree encounter, and they all had it appear in time. Maybe there was an internal battery or clock that was delayed or lagging, although when I tried it before and after the speedrun, it was a clean 6 hours. Maybe it was something special about what I was doing in the speedrun that caused the delay. Either way, I had no answers and didn't attempt the Munchlax speedrun again. It wasn't until late last year when I finally got an answer for what might have been happening. I had mentioned the Munchlax incident during one of my Twitch streams, and longtime community member TheMasterZelda decided to look into it. The same day I mentioned it, he posted his findings in my Discord server. He had done some reverse engineering and figured out a lot about the time mechanics of Gen 4, so big kudos to TheMasterZelda for making this video possible. So let's start with how the game tracks time for things like the honey tree or berries. This part is already known. I actually found an explanation for this on Dragonfly Cave. When you slather the honey tree, a countdown timer is initialized at 23 hours and 59 minutes. When 6 hours pass and the timer hits 17 hours and 59 minutes, the honey tree encounter spawns. When 24 hours pass and the time hits 0, the encounter disappears forever. This timer, by the way, is literally a number representing the minutes remaining, so it would start at 14:39 and count down to 0. There's also no way to cheat these timers. Your DS effectively keeps track of 2 timestamps at all times, an initial timestamp set at the factory and an offset timestamp. The offset timestamp is what gets changed every time you change the date time on your DS, and is just the difference between the real-time clock and the initial timestamp. The game will store this offset in your save file, so when you load the game with a different offset from changing system settings, it'll know what you did and reset all your honey and berry trees and apply penalties wherever else is needed. This is also why you can't just plug your cartridge into a different DS. The offsets won't line up since they have different initial timestamps. Here's the stuff that wasn't known. The way that the timer ticks down towards 0 is pretty straightforward. The game is constantly running its own timer counting in the background. When a minute has passed, any timers that are currently running get updated, so in our case, the honey tree timer would decrease by 1. However, this process does not happen while you're in battle. Here's the problem. Let's say the game updates the timers and you immediately enter a battle. It takes you 1 minute and 30 seconds to complete this battle. As the battle ends, the game checks how much time has passed since the last update. Since at least a minute has passed, it updates the timers, then it will update them again after 1 more minute passes. But wait, remember that tiny detail I mentioned earlier? The honey tree timer, the berry tree timer, all these timers, they're just a number representing minutes. More specifically, these are integers, meaning that they have no decimals. At some point in this timer update process, the seconds get dropped. As a result, the only thing that gets subtracted from our timers is the number of minutes that have passed. This means that if 2 minutes and 30 seconds have passed since the last timer update, the timers all decrease by 2 and the seconds are lost forever. Some context I didn't provide earlier about my Munchlax speedrun, I did a ton of encounters. I won't go super in depth on it, but I basically had to RNG manipulate Pachirisus with the pickup ability, grind them all to level 21, then battle Pokemon during the 6-hour wait to try to get as many rare candies as possible. Yeah, this run was really stupid and took way too much effort, but if you want to learn more, let me know in the comments if I should make a video about it. Anyways, let's say it's been 55 seconds since the timer's updated, and I go ahead and enter a battle. If I spend 50 seconds in the battle, then I've effectively lost 45 seconds on all my running timers. I averaged about 3 encounters a minute during my Munchlax run, so even just randomly losing 15 seconds here and there easily could have added up to the 1-hour delay I experienced. This timer update process also happens in some other places, like when you load a save file, so you can be losing time then too. So now we have our hypothesis for what probably happened during my run. Unfortunately, when Zelda found all this, I was busy preparing for my AGDQ Pokemon Diamond speedrun, so I didn't try to confirm his findings. It wasn't until last month when I considered redoing my Munchlax speedrun that I decided I should actually confirm how time works in Gen 4. So let's prove that this is how the game is actually behaving. With TheMasterZelda's help, I formulated a few experiments. Our first experiment was a simple baseline. I slather a honey tree, stand in front of it, leave my DS on, and check back in 6 hours later. Lo and behold, an encounter spawns. Cool. A quick note here is that because the game clock is constantly running in the background independent of your individual honey or berry tree timers, this will almost never take exactly 6 hours. For example, if you slather a honey tree and the timer update happens 10 seconds later, you effectively saved 50 seconds on your honey tree timer. This means that a honey tree encounter would spawn anywhere from 5:59:01 to 6 hours flat after the slather. Now let's see if we can accurately delay this encounter by an expected amount. Can I force specifically a 10-minute delay on a honey tree? Let's look at how my process for forcing a delay would work. First, we force a timer update. How do we do this if we don't know when one will happen? The simplest way is just to enter a battle, wait 1 minute, then run. Technically, we run away a few seconds before 1 minute, since the timer update happens exactly when we regain control of our character. Since 1 minute has passed, we know that regardless of what the game timer was at, it will update all of our timers. Now, we will lose some unknowable amount of seconds on our running timers, anywhere from 0 to 59, but that's not a big deal. Now that our running timers have updated, we know when the next one will happen, which would be in exactly 1 minute from ending that battle. Our next step then is to force some delay. So going back to our original idea, if we want to create a 10-minute honey tree delay, we could do 12 encounters and then try to lose 50 seconds on each encounter. So after our initial 1-minute battle, we immediately enter another battle. Since our goal is to lose 50 seconds, we must stay in this battle until 1 minute and 50 seconds has passed since the last timer update. After 1 minute and 50 seconds passes, we run away, triggering another timer update where it only records the 1 minute and not the 50 seconds. We immediately repeat this process 11 more times, and if all succeeded, we should have delayed the honey tree encounter by at least 10 minutes. In this initial test, I actually messed up some of my encounters and actually lost about 3 minutes. So I redid the 12 encounters correctly to lose 10 minutes. At this point, I put the DS down and then wait 6 hours. I come back at the 6-hour mark and no encounter. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, nothing. I constantly keep checking the tree, and finally, after nearly 6 hours and 14 minutes, we get an encounter. Seems like the mystery is solved, but let's do a more complicated test. Next, I decided to test the berry tree timer to confirm it affects them as well. For this experiment, I slathered a honey tree and immediately planted a cherry berry. Cherry berries should complete their first growth stage at 3 hours after planting, assuming no mulch or water is used. With 2 different timers started, I set to create a 5-minute delay for both of them. To do this, I repeat the same process outlined in the previous experiment, but do 6 encounters with a 50-second delay, creating a 5-minute total delay on both timers. Once this 5-minute delay was created, I then planted another cherry berry to confirm that it would sprout in the proper 3-hour time. 3 hours pass, and the cherry tree doesn't sprout, until approximately 5 minutes later, confirming that we successfully created a 5-minute delay. A few minutes later, the second cherry tree sprouted. From planting to sprouting, this cherry tree only took 2 hours, 59 minutes, and 48 seconds, suggesting that the encounter delay had no effect as expected. I decided to save and quit here to confirm that this 5-minute delay would persist even with the game turned off. I checked back in 3 hours later to confirm that the honey tree was still delayed the expected 5 minutes. At this point, I'm confident that this bug is the reason my Munchlax run lost an hour. Now that we confirmed how time works in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, it was time to test if this bug existed in Heart Gold, Soul Silver as well. While there are no honey trees in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, there are berry trees which can be accessed via the Berry Pot key item. I repeated the berry tree experiment by planting a Pecha Berry, trying to force a 5-minute delay, then planting another Pecha Berry and waiting 3 hours. Interestingly, I got a completely different result. The Pecha tree I tried to delay by 5 minutes only experienced a 1 minute and 13 second delay. And my second Pecha tree sprouted about when expected, that would be 3 hours and 19 seconds after planting. Clearly the game was doing something different here. I repeated the experiment the next day a bit more thoroughly. This time I planted 2 Pecha Berries at the same time, tried to force a 5-minute delay, then planted 2 more Pecha Berries and waited. This time the first and second Pecha trees sprouted simultaneously. The first one took 3 hours and 18 seconds to sprout, while the second one took 3 hours and 5 seconds. These sprout times were faster than the berry I planted yesterday that I didn't even try to delay. The third and fourth Pecha Berries that should have experienced no delays also took right around 3 hours to sprout. Trees sprouting at the same time despite being planted a few seconds apart can easily be explained if the games use a similar background timer system to the one in Platinum. While I don't know exactly how time works in HGSS, clearly the same bug does not exist. It seems that Game Freak was aware and managed to fix it in the subsequent set of games. Nice. Now, before I could wrap up everything, there was one more experiment to run. While I was doing these experiments, TheMasterZelda casually mentioned that there's a good chance this bug exists in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl as well, based on the Reddit comments he was reading. After all, BDSP is notorious for replicating certain bugs from Diamond and Pearl. Famously, the Suction Cup's ability does not work outside of battle across DP and BDSP. In fact, Retire actually found a glitch in the original Gen 4 games from messing with BDSP. I decided to repeat the original experiment in Brilliant Diamond. I slathered a honey tree, forced a 10-minute delay, and of course the encounter showed up in 6 hours because it's a modern video game that wouldn't have a nearly 20-year-old bug that was fixed in HGSS. Just kidding, of course it does! The honey tree encounter was in fact delayed 10 minutes. Another bug confirmed for existing across generations. So after this long journey and lots of 3 to 6 hour long tests, we now know why sometimes things take longer than advertised in Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, and BDSP. But what can we do about it? Can we beat the system? The answer is yes, we can. You just need a timer and you can still do encounters and live your life. Let's say I want to do a full odd shiny hunt without delaying my honey tree. Here's what you would do. Similar to all of my experiments, you start an encounter and a stopwatch at the same time. End the battle after 1 minute. Keep that stopwatch running and do encounters as you normally would. Every time 1 minute passes on this stopwatch, our next timer update will happen. So our goal is to not lose seconds on our timers, so what we have to do is finish our encounters before the next minute update happens. So how does that actually look? Here's an example. Let's say I finish an encounter around the 2 minute and 46 second mark on my stopwatch. I cannot start another encounter as the minute will roll over in the battle and seconds will potentially be lost. Instead, I wait until the stopwatch hits 3 minutes, then begin doing encounters again until we get close to the next minute. If done this way, you shouldn't lose any time except for the time lost in the initial 1 minute encounter. I did one last test where I did encounters for about 5 minutes following this technique and got my cherry tree to sprout at the 3 hour and 9 second mark, thus proving a very minimal delay if done correctly. Now, whether this extra effort is worth it or not is up to the player. I imagine most people would say, yeah, I don't care, and just deal with any potential delays to their berries and honey trees. But I'm glad we were finally able to solve this mystery and explain why things sometimes take longer than they should in these games. I'm sure some niche speedruns like my Munchlax run and challenge runs can definitely take advantage of this new information to help them save time. Was this bug something you experienced and didn't realize as a kid? Will this information change how you play these games? Let me know in the comments. I was completely blown away by the response to my last video and I really enjoy making videos like this, so thank you for your support. I have some other similar projects in the works and we'll do some smaller videos between them, so please subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to support my future research endeavors. Thanks for watching.